Greetings, everyone. It's lovely to be here. It's a nice sunny day. Last time I was in this venue, a few years ago, was for a rave. We had Carl Cox in that room and Macioplex in the basement. But anyway, that was a rather different kind of event. Lovely to see you all here today. Yeah, I'm kind of looking after this next section. And we have these lovely people who are going to join me on stage. So, yeah, could we have Balwinder, Katie, and Jessica, please come on up. So yeah, I'm Tim Healy. As you can see, I write for The Drum occasionally. I run something called Little Grey Cells Club, which is the UK's premier senior marketing network. Have a seat, guys. And I've been asked by CreatorIQ just to moderate this bit of the event. So I'd like to kick off things by getting my esteemed panel here to maybe introduce themselves to you and explain why they are experts in this field. So take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, CreatorIQ, for having us here today. My name is Jessica Wilson. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing for Kylie Fragrances. However, I've worked in the beauty industry for 18 years, my whole career. I've worked with very corporate companies, private equity-backed ones, and two big founders who I would say are quite strong female leaders, CEOs, and content creators, such as Charlotte Tilbury, and now with Mona Katana at Kylie.
Thanks very much. Balwinder.
Hey everyone, really happy to be here today. I'm Balwinder Bartler, better known as Mr. Whisper on the internet. I'm a content creator and also a creative director. I specialize in low-light photography, and I've been lucky enough to work with brands that understand the connection between street photography, editorial style, and the vision that I have. So I've worked on film sets, TV sets, fashion brands, sports brands. Very lucky to have a very mixed bag in my portfolio, and it's a pleasure to be here and share my thoughts with you today.
Thanks very much. And last but not least?
I'm Katie. I am a senior editor-at-large at LinkedIn. Been at LinkedIn for about 12 years, and a lot of the work that I do these days is around creators and helping set them up for success on the platform and contributing to our sort of platform of knowledge and professional conversations.
Thanks very much. Okay, let's jump in. Creators are often first to spot and amplify cultural shifts. How do you identify which trends worth jumping on and which may be short-lived or off-brand? Oh. Yeah, who'd like to go first? Balwinder.
I'll give it a go. So for me, it's a lot to do with, I guess, spotting that longevity. And for me, longevity can be hidden within patterns. So if I see a certain trend resurface in various formats and on different platforms, I think that, invites me, and I know it's got that kind of cultural stickiness that I'm looking for. Then I kind of need to ask myself whether or not I can add value to that trend or I can give a fresh perspective to it. If not, then I'm happy to skip the trend. I'm not jumping on every trend that happens because there has to be a way for my narrative to evolve because, I'm very precious about my own brand. And the other thing is that I'll just be adding more noise to, a lot of noise that already exists on on social networks. So, yeah, for me, it's ultimately about finding that cultural stickiness, making sure that, that it's going to have that little bit of longevity for me.
Thanks very much. Katie.
Yeah, I think tying into your narrative is essential. Whatever trends might be happening, obviously tons of trends may only live 24 hours, and that's absolutely fine if you feel, compelled and inspired to weigh in on that thing, so long as it is, reflective of what is core to your brand and what you're trying to say. Quite frankly, on LinkedIn, we very often encourage people to join timely conversations, to, talk about things happening in their industry, because people want to know if that's a conversation that's happening and there's sort of a zeitgeisty moment around it. If you do have a fresh perspective, it's a perfect opportunity to weigh in. So I think if you start from that core of who am I, what am I trying to get across, what are the messages that I want to convey, then that gives you the flexibility to jump onto whatever trends or topics might come up.
Thanks very much. And Jessica, in beauty.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different perspective as well on this, because a lot of the founders and creators I work with, I would say my perspective, create the trends. And it's really understanding, from my perspective, their process of that. And it's the trend needs to be authentic. They need to have a true connection and story with this trend. So Mona Katana, our founder, always actually references this story. She wanted to create a fragrance back in 2023 called Yum Pistachio Gelato. And everyone said, what is this? What are you going to do? How can you describe a pistachio ingredient through social content? How can you do this? And really, and she did start this trend because what she said is like, but pistachio gelato takes me back to Italy, to my favorite place, holiday destination. You know, it's having that snack in the afternoon, that feeling, that comfort, that deliciousness. And she goes, and that's what I want to create. I want to create that feeling, that emotion. So it really was being authentic and really connecting with a personal experience that she was able to portray this new trend, and really this gourmand yum and connecting with food on social media with fragrances is really, it's a new trend that's leading the way in terms of my industry. So I think it's just being honest and having that genuine connection with the trend or creating that trend.
Great, thanks very much. So, yeah, building on trends, what are the most impactful trends that you're seeing on social media right now, and how are creators shaping them? I don't know, do you want to start, Jess?
I can go, and I can continue on with some examples as well. So we were discussing this before, and it's really about that authenticity. But how do you create an authentic story, an authentic connection through creative content? It's intangible. So I really believe it's actions speak louder than words. And, you know, I've seen a lot of founders recently, and Mona's done it recently, really connecting with other fragrance brands and other fragrance founders. And really it's about sharing that passion, their interest, just talking about the community and their art of and their love of perfumery. It's not trying to outdo each other and take each other down. I've been in so many founders and creators before. I want to be better. I want to do this better. And it's really that act of authenticity I feel that is really coming across.
Great, thanks very much. Balwinder.
Could you repeat the question again?
I absolutely can, yeah. So the most impactful trends that you're seeing on social media right now, and how are creators shaping them?
So I think, you know, social media has been around for quite a while now, and one of the negative things about it that I'm seeing a lot of is, you know, there's kind of creator fatigue and creator burnout. But on the flip side of that, there's been quite a positive outcome, and like this trend that I've certainly seen, you know, navigating itself to the top. And for me, it's about these creators sharing their journey, their blood, sweat, and tears that they've had to do over, you know, for me, it's like the last decade to achieve and be in places that they've been in. Because, you know, there's a very strong misconception that you can become a creator like in a week and, you know, you'll be getting brand deals immediately. But that's not the case. And I think, you know, it's kind of a win-win scenario when they share this kind of very authentic, transparent and kind of vulnerable journey. And for, you know, certainly for brands, it's a good way for them to understand where the creators are coming from and if they're a good, you know, if this would be a good relationship for them to have. For other creators, it's incredibly inspiring because they know, look, you know, even though I'm creating this content, no one's seeing it, I'm not getting any brand deals, I need to stick with it and I need to kind of, you know, stay in the game. You know, you've got to be in it to win it. And I think, and for the creators themselves, and this is probably one of the reasons I need to make it, I think it's going to be incredibly cathartic for them. You know, just get it out their system, let everyone know this is the journey that I've been on. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying that trend at the moment. You know, with that, there is a certain visual and art direction that's come with it, which is kind of very analog, using kind of paper cutouts. And I feel it's a lot slower paced than, you know, a lot of the fast short form videos that you see, which I'm really enjoying being able to just sit back and take in everything they're saying rather than it being a split second of entertainment.
Fascinating. Thanks very much.
I want to piggyback on that because I think we're seeing the same thing with bigger brands and especially brand leadership. Something we're seeing a lot on LinkedIn is CEOs or other executives kind of pulling back the curtain on how they do what they do, getting extremely authentic and showing a bit more personality, a bit more of the human behind whatever the big brand might be. One example that is my go-to for this, and I absolutely love, is John Gray, who's a financial executive, who started sharing videos on LinkedIn of him running and talking about the business and how he does what he does and his thoughts on the company and earnings and various things while doing this running club. And we've seen this domino effect with other CEOs and other leaders doing similar kinds of things or just being like, oh, wait a minute, like, this is working, and people are really loving this, and people are really loving to see a human being as the face of these companies. So I think, you know, authenticity is always sort of the key word to what makes content stand out, especially content from creators. And I think that that is increasingly accessible regardless of the company or brand that might be driving that content.
Thanks very much. It's been observed that there's a tension between jumping on trends and maintaining that authenticity you speak about and the long-term brand voice. How can brands, get that right? Would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. It really does, to me, go back to whatever your core identity and purpose is. If you have that very clearly defined, I think that makes it much easier to figure out what fits to jump on and how you position yourself. The messaging of your content matters so much there. It's like, thinking about brands like, Duolingo, where they have a really fun persona, a really fun voice. That's going to work for some brands. It's not going to work for others. So what is core to your identity, your mission, your purpose, and then how do you decide what makes sense in terms of the ways that you might jump onto a certain trend, I think are really key to figure out. And once you have that sort of North Star, I think it really does make it a lot easier to make real-time decisions, because ultimately these are real-time decisions. You have to jump on something quickly, otherwise it's not going to resonate.
So would you say it kind of ties back into strategy, really, as from your...
Yeah, I think it's all part of the same foundation. And if you have that foundation, you can, because so often you may have sort of like moments in time around campaigns or things like that, but especially for a social team or social marketing, like they're always thinking about what can happen quickly and how they can move on things fast. And depending on how that goes, once you do jump on a certain trend, that might inform the bigger picture strategy as well.
Thanks very much. Jessica.
Yeah, so it's a really delicate balance, and I've seen some of the biggest brands and biggest creators of content get it wrong, and they could be the best at the best, and they could get it right 99% of the time. And I really think you do need to have those moments where you get it wrong, so you can sit back and reflect. Is this true to my brand tone of voice? Does this resonate with my audience? Does it dilute or does it add to the brand value? And I have lots of examples, because I thought it's the best way to help illustrate some answers is, I'm not going to name names on this one, but it was a skincare brand. It's science-backed, technology-backed, with dermatologists supporting it. However, fabulous TikTok trend, a bit really playful, a bit cheesy. We jumped on it, and it fell flat and was a bit of a joke. So it's really just, we just need to pause and ask us those questions, really. Is this going to be positive for our brands? Is it our tone of voice? And trends come and go, but the brand is there long term. So it's really assessing and taking that step back right at the beginning and saying, do we have to do every trend? Is it right for us?
Thanks very much. Balwinder.
Yep, and I think just to kind of build on your point, I think brands need to be kind of very self-aware, and they should always step back and ask themselves, what's our cultural why, and understand it's not just an aesthetic. And in order to get involved with a trend, they should probably ask another question and say, how does this deepen our relationship with our audience? And if it doesn't, I think that's a place where you have to do your due diligence and find the right creator who can help, act as almost like a cultural translator, and often help you or help your brand to step into spaces where you might not be kind of authentically seen, but using that translator, you can kind of sit within a space that you might not have been before and be able to tell your narrative.
Great, thanks very much. Okay, this time, I'd like you to all gaze into your crystal ball. What upcoming cultural or social shifts should brands be preparing for, and how can creators help? Yes.
I think I've been going first a lot.
No, we mix it up.
No, I can. And really, for the beauty industry, we were just talking about this before we got on stage. And we have been talking also just now about authenticity, that immersive storytelling. But really what I feel for the beauty industry is that co-creation with our community. And that is taking that listening piece even further. And at Kayali, and this is a great example, I just joined the business at the perfect time, I think. For April Fools, we created some content, and it's not a new idea to create content for April Fools. Lots of brands and creators do it. But we created content about launching a kitten musk fragrance. And again, you'd be like, what's a kitten musk fragrance? But Mamona presents it as, you know, that warm feeling like when a kitten, I don't have cats, but when a kitten sits on your lap and it's that cozy, warm feeling. And so we presented this as a new launch on April Fool's. In the community, we had 55,000 likes. We're inundated with comments. When's it launching? When's it coming? Is it coming now? And even WWD picked up on it and wrote an article saying, will Mona Katan really produce a kitten musk fragrance? And you know what? We're considering it. We're listening to our community. Really, it is that co-creation piece. The consumers are people buying our products. You know, marketeers, we use data, we use insights, we know this is the biggest market share we should go after, this is what we should create. But however, it's our community and it's our consumers that are buying the products. So it's really that co-creation with the community. I feel is the next evolution. But
Thanks very much. Balwinder.
For me personally, I'm finding that creators are being seen less as influencers and more as educators. And certainly from my point of view, I think it's allowing creators, and I think brands should consider this, from allowing them to step out from behind that kind of 9:16 ratio phone screen and into the real world. You know, for me, I'd say 75% of my work for 2025 has been, you know, sitting on panels like this, doing workshops. I'll be doing a press launch for a product. I've been lucky to be enough to be playing with the prototype. So, you know, stepping into the real world, kind of sharing, you know, all this kind of knowledge that you've built up over the years is, I think, what I'm seeing a lot of my close-knit creator community doing.
I mean, whether it's yourself or perhaps others you can think of, have you got any good examples you could share with the room of that educational piece?
So I think one of the most bizarre occasions for me was when Bombay Sapphire, I used to do a lot of photography for them over like 2 or 3 years, and then they invited me to do one of their launches in their beautiful distillery. And I remember we had to get onto a coach early in the morning to get there, but there was lots of traffic. And I was, you know, they didn't tell anyone who I was, but I was on a coach full of journalists and press, and I was going to be presenting the exhibition of all the new cocktails that they had made. And I remember as we were stuck in traffic, everyone was stressing out. But then this conversation started all about creators and how much journalists hated creators. And there's me quietly sitting in the back like, oh my gosh, like just throw me, like I wish I could disappear. But, you know, and then when there was the big reveal that, haha, this is guy, he's a, you know, a creator, he's going to be taking you through the exhibition. It was just like, they all kind of, you know, the roles changed. And so, you know, I was there as a curator of the exhibition, presenting all these drinks, shared my photographs about them and my little stories with each of the mixologists. So, you know, there's various places I've been put, which I really enjoyed the challenge. But yeah, it's certainly, I think, more fun than doing a lot of stuff just that's presented on a screen.
Character forming then, yeah, yeah, great. Katie.
Just quickly, that one reminded me as well. I think also education in terms of the content that people are creating. You know, there's so much happening in our world today. There's so much that's changing. And I think people are turning to creators as experts in their space to help us all understand how to navigate that. So that just reminded me of that. The trend that I was going to bring up was just AI, in the sense of, I think everybody is trying to understand what this means in their space, their field, their industry, whatever that is. And also for creators themselves and brands themselves, how do you use this tool effectively while still being able to create quality content and define a brand voice that actually sticks and resonates with people. So I think that's the big cultural shift that I am thinking about quite a lot, and I think many people, you know, across spaces are. But even that, I think, then gets down to education as well. It's like, you know, you see people who might be exploring how to use AI in interesting ways, and it's like, oh, okay, there's actually a lot that people can then teach others about how they've been navigating some of these things, considering we're all building it in real time. So they're kind of intertwined.
Great, thanks very much. Okay, so creators and brand partnerships. How do you endure relevance as opposed to being too opportunistic?
You're looking at me. I feel like this is mine.
Yes,
okay.
Go for it.
I actually feel like I want to steal one of your answers from earlier, which is, you know, kind of making sure that you can use creators to authentically tap into audiences that you may not naturally reach. I think that's a really interesting point, that like you kind of have your core groups, your core audiences that, you know, are your go-tos, your community, you know, all of this is about sort of co-creating a community. You know, we are long past the place of sort of a broadcast situation where a brand or a person or anything is just sort of conveying things to you. It's very much a dialogue. But creators are an amazing opportunity to push the bounds of what might be a fit for your brand. And so I think trying to look at where those opportunities are in a way that does align with your brand voice and values, I think there's certainly cases where that can go very awry. So you have to be really clear about, you know, your identity and how a certain creator might be a natural extension and allow you to speak in that community's language in a way that is going to resonate well and not backfire on you.
I mean, do you have any examples perhaps that you might share of either creators or brands that are doing that?
No.
Okay. No, I'm sorry.
I need to think about that.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I think everyone's, you know, quite fascinated to, you know, maybe some few takeouts. If we have time, maybe we'll come back. Balwinder.
So I think for me, anyway, personally, the best brand and creative partnerships happen over a long term. So not having those kind of one-hit wonders, you work with a brand once and then you're on to the next one. I've always felt that's quite strange. And, you know, I've worked on a couple of editorial pieces for big clients for 12 months. And I found those the most satisfying. I think you get the best content out of those. You get to enrich your idea each time you work with them. More recently, I was a Fujifilm ambassador for 2 years, and building up that relationship with them, that trust, allowed me much more creative freedom, gave the brand much confidence within me. And, you know, they also, you know, got a bit adventurous. So, you know, we did the first campaigns not in the UK. We went to Paris and Sweden to do a few things. And as a result from that, you know, I still like to put my creative director hat on every now and again. And now I, you know, work as a creative consultant to help them to launch certain products which they find are quite difficult. So I think building those relationships and brands understanding a creator and, you know, all the different facets that they have is really important and can really get the best of both worlds for both parties involved.
Thank you very much. And Jessica?
I've got 2 points of view on this, and one was influenced by a conversation I had last night with one of our beauty creators, Shima. She's speaking later today, so go and see her. It's not a plug, I don't get paid for that. But my first point of view is it's really hard because I work on brand side with creators that are founders and then creators as well to share the story and share the brand's messaging. So it's very hard for me to say what's not opportunistic. So it's a very hard, I really thought like, what do I say is an opportunity? Is there a great example? And really what came to mind was there's another beauty brand called Refi Beauty. And last year, they decided to take consumers away for a holiday, not creators, not influencers, to really create that genuine content, that authentic content. And it's not opportunistic. Everyone knows it's not opportunistic. They are consumers. However, as I was talking to lovely Shima last night, but she said to me, but you know, I'm a creator, and if brands didn't prescribe and script me so much, and say, what background should I use? And you should do that. She goes, why can't I have that freedom that a user-generated content has? So it was a really interesting take. It's like, we actually give the consumers and we can take them away and create this content that's not opportunistic, or we could actually trust these creators who have spent years building their community based on their authenticity. They've built so much respect. So it's, I mean, I'm going against what I do as a brand, but it's like, why don't we offer the creative freedom back to the creators and let them use their own tone of voice? That would really help them build that trust within their own community. So a bit of 2 thoughts.
No, that sounds like a great agenda. Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That's been my very esteemed panel. We've had Katie Carroll, we've had Balwinder, and we've had Jessica. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.